flavor so good that more people buy and enjoy our Maxwell House coffee than any other brand at any price. So how about it? For the most in downright coffee drinking enjoyment, try our Maxwell House, won't you? It's the one, the only coffee that's always good to the last drop.
A day has passed since last we saw the Andersons. 1 day, 22 minutes, 14 seconds, and 3 meals. It's dinner time again, and once more the family is gathered about the festive board. The table is piled high with all sorts of tasty things. Raw carrots, celery, kale, cabbage. Well, it isn't exactly festive, I guess, but they're certainly bored. Like this.
Mother,
What is it, Betty?
is my nose twitching?
No, I don't think so, dear. Why?
I feel just like a rabbit.
You look like a rabbit.
Do I?
That's your brother's idea of a joke, kitten. Have another carrot.
Jimmy Woody says if you eat rabbit food, you get big ears.
That's very interesting. All right, Bud.
What?
Let's have it.
Oh, it isn't anything, Dad. I was just thinking of a rabbit's tail. We'd sure look funny if...
Never mind, Bud.
Well, wouldn't we?
I don't want to look like a rabbit.
You know, it's an amazing thing. A genius like Dr. Clark devotes his entire life to the development of a diet. But you'd rather take the word of a 9-year-old pipsqueak like Jimmy Woody.
He's 10.
I beg your pardon, a 10-year-old pipsqueak.
Father, how long do we have to eat these horrible things?
That's not the proper attitude, Betty. In 2 or 3 weeks, we'll get used to the Clark diet, and we'll get along fine.
In 2 or 3 weeks, we'll be dead.
But if you aren't happy with your dinner,
Yes?
have some raw egg yolk.
No, thank you.
Betty?
It's bad enough eating raw cabbage.
Jim, you might not believe this, but I went to 3 markets this afternoon, and they were all fresh out of fenugreek seeds.
You know, somehow I get the impression that you aren't particularly fond of this diet.
Why, Jim, whatever made you think a thing like that?
You don't seem to realize that this is a very serious matter.
Who doesn't?
Do you know what Dr. Clark says? He says that the American diet contains such a large percentage of residue and alkaline minerals that the ratio of carbohydrates is shockingly disproportionate.
What does that mean?
I don't know. But it certainly makes you stop and think, doesn't it?
Doesn't make me stop and think.
But this is a diet, not a miracle.
Jim.
Take fats, for example. What do we know about fats?
May I please be excused?
No. Did you
Jim,
know...
if she's finished with her dinner, why can't she be excused?
Because this is very interesting. Did you know that the digestibility of fats depends upon 1, the melting point, 2, whether or not it saponifies properly, and 3, to what degree it resists the digestive ferments? Well, did you?
I didn't.
You see?
Now may I be excused?
Kathy, as you grow older, you'll find all this very important.
If I don't get some food, I'm not going to get any older.
What was that?
Oh, I said, now that summer's almost over, it's sure getting colder. Yes, sir. It sure is.
Yes. May I have my coffee, please?
Well, here you are, dear.
Thank you. The trouble with the people in this family is that they don't want to learn anything. All they care about are strapless evening gowns and gasoline scooters.
And hamburgers.
Thank you, kitten, and hamburgers.
Now may I be excused?
Kathy, you're a sensible little girl. Wouldn't you like to hear what Dr. Clark has to say about Corinth?
My, it's certainly getting late, isn't it?
Margaret.
I'd better get started on the dishes, or we'll be here all night.
But I haven't...
Don't hurry, dear. You just sit there and enjoy your coffee while we do the dishes. Are you coming, Betty?
It is my turn to... Oh, excuse me, Father. I have to help Mother with the dishes.
Want me to drive? Please?
All right. Come along.
Can't I do something? Sure, you can keep Father company. Gee whiz.
We won't be very long, dear.
Oh, don't worry about us. I'm going to tell Kathy all about Corinth.
You do that.
You see, kitten, Corinths, or dried seedless grapes, in contrast to dry seedy grapes, are poor in water. 79.1%.
Bud, close the door.
25.3%.
Yes, ma'am.
Naturally, that makes it one.
Oh, what a relief.
What's the matter with Dad? Doesn't he feel well?
He feels fine, but it's just that, well, he becomes so interested in the people he has to introduce at these dinners that he gets carried away.
He should be.
Bud, that's not very respectful.
Oh, I'm sorry, but good grief, Mom, why should we have to eat all that junk just because he's interested?
It's all good, healthy food, dear. It won't do you the least bit of harm.
It won't do me any good either. Phonograph seeds.
Mother, what if he had to introduce a fan dancer? Would we have to run around?
Betty. Really, dear.
Well, then, why do we have to eat rabbit food?
We're not going to. We're going to put an end to this foolishness once and for all.
How do we do that?
We're going to get rid of your father's tuxedo.
What's the tuxedo got to do with it?
Father said it wasn't a reducing diet.
We're all on this horrible diet because your father's tuxedo won't button.
I still don't get it.
Bud, your father has had that same tuxedo for 15 years, and he just won't admit that he's put on a little weight.
But he said...
Betty, do you like eating that rabbit food?
Of course not.
Bud?
What's up, Doc? I mean, no.
All right, then. You've both got to help me get rid of that miserable tuxedo.
Mother, you've always said... Well...
Gosh, if Dad really likes it...
Margaret, don't forget to order some liver fat for tomorrow.
All right, dear.
What do you want us to do?
We won't have to shoot anybody, will we?
Very simple. We're just going to make a few alterations.
But we don't know how to alter a tuxedo.
I know. And when we get through, no one will be able to fix it.
How's that going to get us off the diet?
We're going to rip that old tuxedo to shreds. And your father will have to buy a new one that fits him.
Oh.
Then we'll see how long he worries about whether or not his food saponifies.
Mom, what if he finds out?
He won't find out.
But if he does... Oh, well, I can always move in with Janie Liggett.
Don't forget, we're going to fix it.
Mom, maybe we...
Bud. Well, dear, have you and Kathy fixed up our menu for tomorrow?
I was just telling her about the horrible things eating can do to your hemoglobin.
Oh?
I don't think we ever ought to eat again.
We don't have to go that far, kitten.
Well, thank goodness for that. Bud,
Yes, ma'am?
why don't you run upstairs and get your father's tuxedo like a good boy?
Okay.
What does he want to do that for?
I'll bring it right down, Dad.
Honey, I don't need...
We're going to fix it for you, Father.
But it doesn't need fixing.
Of course it does.
All it needs is to have the button moved.
Jim, having the button moved isn't going to make the shoulders any looser.
But
Are you going to loosen Daddy's shoulders? We're going to loosen everything.
Margaret, there isn't any reason. Bud! Bud, why can't you learn to walk down the stairs?
I thought you were in a hurry.
For what? I'm not going anywhere.
All right, dear, slip it on.
I don't want to slip it on.
Jim?
Honey, you don't know anything about altering tuxedos.
Well, of course I do. Put it on, dear.
Oh.
Mommy fixes my dresses all the time.
Dresses are different. This is a job for a tailor. I mean, all it needs is to have the button moved.
There. You see, Betty, it's much too tight across the shoulders, isn't it?
It's tight other places, too.
Margaret, if I just stay on this diet...
Angel, the dinner is tomorrow night, and no diet is going to make that coat fit in 24 hours.
But all it needs...
We'll have to let out the seam in the back. Go ahead, Bud.
What?
Open the seam in the back.
Honey...
Turn around, Jim.
Honey, if you'll only...
All right, Bud.
Like this?
Bud! Margaret!
Doesn't that feel better?
It certainly looks better.
Are you sure you know what you're doing?
Quite sure, dear. Now, the seam's on the side.
Well, take it easy, will you, Bud?
Okay, Dad.
I'll get the one over here.
Betty, you're tearing it.
I am? Why can't I tear something?
Later, Angel. Now...
Honey, don't you think you've done enough to this poor coat?
Not quite. But I think we ought to remove the sleeves.
What for?
We'll explain the whole thing some other time, dear. Go ahead, children.
Oh, Bud, will you... Margaret, they've ruined the whole... Stop it! Betty, you didn't have to pull the pocket off.
It looked a little tight.
Honey, look at this thing. You'll never be able to fix it.
It does look a little ragged, doesn't it?
I'll see who's at the door.
Look what she did with this pocket. She ripped the whole front of the coat.
Want me to rip the pocket from the bottom, Daddy?
You keep away from me.
I didn't do anything.
I don't know what got into you, any of you. Now I'll have to buy a new tuxedo.
Oh, dear. Isn't that too bad?
We're awfully sorry, Father.
You sound awfully sorry.
Dad, it's Mr. Manassian.
The cleaner?
Wonder what he wants.
Come on in, Mr. Manassian.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. I was just... Something happened?
I don't know. I think my whole family's gone a little nuts.
But I didn't do anything, Daddy.
You didn't have to. Mr. Manassian, you're a tailor. Do you think you can fix my tuxedo?
Your tuxedo doesn't need fixing.
It what?
That's what I came to tell you. Last night, by mistake, I brought you Hector Smith's tuxedo.
Oh, no.
So all that mealtime misery was caused by a case of mistaken identity. Well, you can't blame Father too much. After all, tuxedos do look pretty much alike. And come to think of it, the woman of the house has a very similar problem. Consider coffee, for example. There are so many brands. How's a gal to know which one has the most in flavor? Well, just remember this. In this nation of coffee lovers, more people buy and enjoy our Maxwell House coffee than any other brand at any price. Why? Because it's the only coffee with that wonderful good to the last drop flavor. This weekend, then, start enjoying our Maxwell House. Savor that satisfying taste of contentment in every fragrant, steaming cup. You'll say Maxwell House has the flavor for you and your family. As for value, well, just count all the truly good cups you get from each pound. You'll know Maxwell House is today's coffee buy. So for the most in flavor, the most in value, look for the sign of good coffee, the big white cup and drop on the familiar blue tin of Maxwell House. Take home the one coffee that's always good to the last drop.
Another day has rolled away, and the Chamber of Commerce dinner has gone down in history. Not, however, without a late evening report to his family by the Toastmaster General, Mr. James Anderson, Sr., like this.
Yes, sir, it was a very unusual dinner. Very unusual.
Did they have fenugreek seeds?
They had everything. And Dr. Clark told Hector Smith...
Well, how did Hector like his new tuxedo, dear?
He liked it fine. Anyway, Dr. Clark told Hector...
Did it cost very much, Father?
Let's not go into that now. Dr. Clark said...
Did Dr. Clark look like a rabbit?
Kathy, will you please... You know, come to think of it, he did.
Well, as long as Mrs. Clark is happy.
Of course, he made a great deal of sense. He explained how practically every human ailment can be traced directly to improper dietary habits. And the health dinner we had tonight...
Excuse me, Dad. Would you like to split the last hamburger with me?
That's a good idea. May I have the mustard, please?
Here you are, Father.
Thank you.
Have a little more piccalilli, Dad.
All right. Where was I?
Dr. Clark's dinner.
Oh, well, we started with raw cabbage soaked in olive oil, and then we had some stewed kale seasoned with fenugreek seeds. And you know what's the funny thing about those seeds? You never even know they were
I'm
there.
next on the donuts, Kathy.
Dr. Clark
Okay.
explained that you
May I
chop
have the
them up
cream
real
and sugar,
fine,
please?
and you add them
There
just
you
as
are,
the kale
dear.
is coming to a boil.
Join us again next week when we'll be back with Father Knows Best, starring Robert Young as Jim Anderson, with Roy Bargy and the Maxwell House Orchestra. In our cast were Ted Donaldson as Bud, Dorothy Lovett, Rhoda Williams, Norma Jean Nilsson, and yours truly, Bill Foreman. So until next Thursday, good night and good luck from the makers of Maxwell House, America's favorite brand of coffee. Always good to the last drop. Father Knows Best was transcribed in Hollywood and written by Ed James.